this computer. All right. So here's what I'm doing. I'm just going to leave the room. It's you guys. He knows he's got questions to ask you, and he's going to do that, and then y'all have fun.
Awesome.
All right. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too.
Hey, that looks like you got a little voltage going out of that outlet on the back.
Yeah, that's in my garage here.
All right. See you guys.
Take care.
Nah.
Hi, Mr. Steve.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I am doing well, very well. It's been this has been a really good week for me. So
Pretty good.
So how many of these have you done so far? 2?
I've done JP and Mike Neubauer so far.
Okay.
What I've done. They were both really a lot of good information from both of them. Different people, totally different people, honestly. JP is very different from Mike. JP's very gets off topic a lot. It's hard to stay on topic, but it was still fun.
Awesome.
Okay, so I have a bunch of different questions because of course you have a lot of different things you do. But I'd just like to start off by asking how did you grow up? How was it like growing up, and what kind did you do to would you start off with your working in jobs and stuff?
So my guess is my story is probably going to be a lot different than JP's or Mike's, but maybe not. My parents were divorced when I was 4 years old, and my mother never did remarry again. My father wasn't much in my life. One thing I really admire about your dad is how involved he is with you guys, because I didn't have that. And I got to see my father sometimes, but not a whole lot. And I was very much like him. We had the same name. We looked the same. Our birthday was the same day. I walked like him. I talked like him. And when I look in the mirror, sometimes I see my dad. But as a result of him not being around, life was hard for us. We would have been considered very poor. I remember my mother made about $150 a week, and that's what she raised me and my brothers off of. And the moment we were able to start working, my brothers and we got jobs. My first job was as a newspaper boy. I was every day after school, I would go pick up my newspapers and deliver them. And on the weekends, in the morning, early in the morning, Sunday mornings, or I was getting up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock to deliver my newspapers. And so I was always a hard worker, and almost I wanted to work, but as I look back now, some of it may have been by necessity because my mother couldn't do everything for us. So once my brothers and I started working, we started doing a lot to take care of ourselves. We started buying, some of our own clothes and started buying food because there just wasn't much. But that led to, I think, a couple of things. A good work ethic, and then there was this desire to want to do better. I wanted to have more in life. I wanted to be successful. My father was an entrepreneur, and he had businesses, and he was always pursuing another business, trying to get rich. And he kept saying he was doing it for his kids, but we were the ones who were paying the price. And so I remember, saying I don't want to be like him, but in that regard, I wanted to be the entrepreneur, and I wanted to, figure out how to get rich. And, ultimately I started going down that path and trying to open up my own businesses. And I became a father when I was young. Just so you know, my daughter just turned 30 years old, my oldest daughter. And so, my boys, and it would probably be difficult to comprehend that I have a 30-year-old, and I actually have 2 grandchildren, and my grandson is older than Ben. He's older than my youngest. So, but I did the same thing as my father with my daughter. I was off so busy trying to not be like him. And here's what I want you to keep in mind. I didn't respect my father because he wasn't around, But the other thing, and this is the thing that my mother brought up all the time, she always said, if your dad would just give us more money, life would be better. And she kept saying that over and over. And so I thought that more money was what a father was supposed to do. I thought more money would make life better. And so when I thought, I don't want to be like my dad, I'm going to be different, I was thinking, I'm going to make money and I'm going to give my daughter a better life. So I went off to make money, but then I did the exact same thing as my dad. When I wasn't successful, I wasn't there either. And so I wasn't a very good father to her when she was growing up. But so jobs, I always had jobs. I had a bunch of them. In high school, I was working 3 jobs, and I was typically most people's favorite employee when I worked for them because I just worked really hard, and I always gave them my all. I bought my first restaurant when I was 21. Bought my second one when I was 25, and I didn't do well with either one of them. I won't go into all those stories, but it was after the second restaurant that I entered into the real estate investing world, and where I found great success as a real estate investor, and then ultimately that led to teaching and then life in air. And so that was some other stuff in between, but that's the gist of it all.
So you said you bought restaurants for 21 when you were 21 and 25?
Yes.
How hard was that business? Like the restaurant business, owning a restaurant?
I would highly recommend you don't ever consider it because it is, it's very, very difficult. Most of them actually go under. You probably see so many of the independents going under. The national chains with enough capital backing can do things the right way, and they can do well with them. But even if you are a person who has a successful restaurant, you tend to really work a lot. And the saddest part is you work when everybody else is enjoying themselves. The busiest days of the year are Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, it's the holidays. So you have to work when everybody else is having fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a very tough business. The culture within that business tends not to be a very good one. And, almost all successful restaurants would have a bar associated with them, and that changes the culture even amongst your employees, even if it's just a thing where you're just serving some drinks here or there. Employees like to indulge in it, and it's that kind of culture. So it was very difficult. I worked 80 to 90 hours a week, and I was lucky if I could get a paycheck as if I worked one job.
Wow. Yeah, that seems very difficult and not much reward for all the work you get.
No. There's people who do really well with chains and stuff like that, but having an individual restaurant is extremely, extremely difficult.
So after you did your restaurants, you went into real estate. How long after that, and how long did it take to build your business to a self-sustaining kind of like actual like good working real estate business that you were getting houses consistently?
So when I got out of the restaurant business, the second restaurant, I just shut it down, and I was deep in a hole. I had lost a lot of money. And the first thing I did was I went and I got a job. I started working for Red Lobster as a manager. And at first it felt really good because I was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. I wasn't getting one when I was the boss. But when I was working for somebody else, I was actually getting paid. And so that was nice, but it didn't take long before that entrepreneurial spirit started kicking back in. And I was just like, I can't do this. I don't want to have somebody telling me what to do, where to go. And so I started pursuing real estate investing then. And I took my lessons learned from the restaurant business. I didn't want to have a lot of employees, but I wanted a business that would make me really good money without having to have a big staff or overhead. So I started trying to educate myself, and researching and doing all kinds of homework, learning as much as I could possibly learn. And during that time, I thought I was getting close to deals, but it was hard to figure out how could a guy who was broke, my credit was shot, I was deep in debt, and no experience, how could I buy houses? It was the first challenge that I had to overcome. And obviously, it was something I did overcome. I kept telling myself, if other people could do it, so could I. And they're no different than I am, and I can do it. So I persevered. It took me 8 months to find my first deal. It took me 1 week to find my next deal, and then 1 week to find my next one. Long story short, I was out doing a deal a week right out of the gate. But it took me a long time to figure out how to do it the first time. But once I got the first one, it was like a light bulb just went off. I had that aha moment, and all of a sudden I got it. I understood what it was that I was looking for. And, the first 8 months of driving around, looking at houses, doing all this research, I didn't get it. And then the first fixer-upper I found that had a motivated seller, everything just clicked. So, I usually talk about my first 2 years in the business because I did 105 deals in 2 years. And I was making not a lot of money. I wasn't getting rich. Many people hear that I did 105 deals my first 2 years and think that I was probably a millionaire already, and not even close. I only made about $40,000 a year each of those 2 years, and I did have a partner, but the 40,000 was more than I had ever made before in my life. I was still young, and with the restaurant, I never made that kind of money. Red Lobster wasn't paying me that kind of money. No jobs I ever had ever paid me that kind of money. So it felt good, but at the end of 2 years, I sat down and I looked at everything I did, and I said, you just did 105 deals. You should have made a lot more than $40,000 a year. So I went and I reevaluated my whole business. I looked at all the deals that I did, and what worked, what didn't work, what were the worst deals, what were the best deals, what did the best deals have in common, what did the worst deals have in common. I came to a conclusion of what was really working, what wasn't working, and I made up my mind that first I was going to get rid of my partner. And then second, there was only one type of deal I was going to focus on. I was going to do that over and over and over again. And my first month without my partner, focusing only on the good deals, I made $40,000 in 1 month. And then the next month I made $60,000. And then the next month I made $70,000. And so the first 2 years was sort of like preparation. I learned a lot during that time, and then I really took it to a different level. So when you asked how long did it take for me, the reality of the situation was because my financial situation was so bad, $40,000 a year was good money, and I was living, one of the best lives I ever had lived up until that point. And but that was nothing compared to what the business eventually became. And it happened overnight once I made a handful of changes.
Mm-hmm. So you've been doing real estate now for a long time, and I don't know how long ago was it you started Lifeneer?
Real estate's been 20 years. I officially started Lifeneer in 2007, so that's about 11 years now.
So you built a lot of Lifeneer is really cool. It's like a coaching program and everything. And so what did you want to accomplish with the things that you did with Lifeneer? Because I know you started it, I guess, as a coaching for real estate, but you've written a book with Sean, and you've done you do like retreats all the time. So what did you want to accomplish with Lifeneer?
So have to go back to the first 2 years of real estate investing to share how that all came about. After those first 2 years, I had people from all over the country reaching out to me, wanting to know what was I doing. They wanted to know how are you doing this? How are you finding so many deals? And your story was you had nothing, and now all of a sudden you're doing all of this stuff. We want to pick your brain. And that was happening so often that I decided that I was going to write a book and teach everybody exactly what I was doing, so that I wouldn't have to answer their questions anymore. I would just put all the answers in the book. I never expected what happened with that book to happen. That the book just started selling like crazy, and it became its own thing. A whole new world was open to me. I was making, right when the book came out, I was making about as much with the book as I was with real estate. And it started selling. More and more people started asking questions. It didn't make the questions go away. It just became more. And so I sort of accidentally found myself as an educator in the real estate investing industry. And I was teaching people everything that I was doing, how to make money, how to build a business. And a few years in, and here's an important thing for you to understand, I didn't know Christ when I first started investing. I gave my heart to the Lord about 1.5 years in. And when I first started investing, it was about money. I was doing it to make a lot of money. Well, I changed. When my heart changed, the purpose of my business also changed. And I started focusing on how many people can I help. And so as I'm actually, helping people and helping others to build up their businesses, I started seeing some dysfunctional families, marriages that were suffering. These guys had successful businesses, but everything that was important to them, or what they said was important to them, started falling apart. And I started feeling a real conviction, like maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore, because I don't want to teach people something that's going to lead to divorce. I don't want to teach them things that's going to lead to dysfunctional families. And so I wrestled with that for a long time. But on the other hand, I was also sharing my faith with people, and there were people who were giving their hearts to Christ. So, there was this wrestle. There was good and there was bad coming out of my teaching. So I was just asking the Lord, what is it? What do you want me to do? And He put it on my heart to start really focusing on their life, and starting to ask them why. Why do you want to become a successful real estate investor? Was a very common question, and that I would ask people. So there was one week that I had 2 guys come to me, and they said, "Steve, I want you to teach me how to become a millionaire." And I said, "Well, why?" One of the guys was 19, the other was in his 40s. The 19-year-old just became a father. But they both said, so that I could be a better father and a better husband. I said to them, you don't need $1 million to be a better father and a better husband. You can just do what a good father does starting today, and you can be a better father. Or you can do what somebody who's a good husband does right now. You don't need money to do it. You can treat your wife better and love your wife more, and you could do that. You don't need $1 million to do that. And both of them said to me, "Steve, you don't understand. I need the money. I can't do it otherwise." And I said to them, "No, you don't understand. I'm a guy too. I've been there. I'm in your shoes. I know what you're talking about, but it's not money. You don't need money." But that wasn't what they wanted to hear. So I was really praying about it, and I was specifically praying about those 2 guys, and I just said, "Lord, what is it about this word millionaire that just grips the hearts, the minds, the lives of so many people? Why are they willing to give up everything for it?" And in that moment, I just felt the Lord speaking to me, and He said, what they really want to be is a lifeonaire. And I'm writing down this word lifeonaire, like life of what? And I'm trying to write it down, and I write down the word, and then the Lord just said, they want to experience abundant life, and that's found in me. And ever since that day, I knew that it was something that I needed to take out to the world. It was never a real estate investing coaching program. It just so happened that my background and my success as a real estate investor gave me that platform. So the people I coached were real estate investors. And that's where I took the message to first, because they would listen to me. And prior to, if I tried to take that message to any other industry, I didn't have a voice in another industry. But real estate investors respected me. They wanted to hear what I had to say. And, when you hear about Life and Air for the first time, people either think you're crazy, or they don't understand it, or they don't get it, or they say, oh, yeah, I get it. That's exactly what I do. And it's really not what they do. But the real estate investing audience had enough respect for me to actually sit down and listen to what I had to say, to try to understand it. And anytime I've tried talking to people outside of the real estate investing industry, we got people who talk about that stuff. And it's like, well, not really, but I don't get that same level of respect. So that's where the real estate and Life and Air came together, is because it's a platform that God gave me.
Hmm. So it's just like a mix of you're coaching them on real estate, but you're also trying to make them just teach them more about Christ, I guess, but like lead them in a better direction in their life. I understand it. Yeah, I understand the business model. It's different. It's very different. It's good coaching. I think it's really cool what you do. Um, I was gonna ask about money management, and because you said in your when as a kid your mom only made a little bit amount of money, and you were making not that much money as an owning a business. What is your ideals or ideas about money management, and how it works, or how a person should manage their money?
Well, first, I believe that God is one who provides everything, and He does provide for all of our needs. Um, I have come to the understanding that we all have enough, because God promised He would give us what we need. We might not have what we want. We might not have enough to get the things that we desire to have, but we have enough. God gives us enough to provide for our needs. And so with that in mind, the thing that I always want to encourage people with is to be good stewards with what they have, to live within their means, to use what God has given them in a very wise way. When we do that, and we can prove to God that we can be trusted with the little bit that He's already given to us, then He will bless us with more. There's a lot of people out there, Collin, who make a lot of money, and they still don't have much. They still, they may go out and buy a big house. They might get nice cars. They might have a lot of toys. They might go on vacations. But it takes everything and then some of what they have to make that happen. And I feel that God does, even when people make mistakes, even when people are not good stewards, He still makes sure that their basic needs are met. So you hear people, you may have heard stories, I've heard them, but maybe you have heard some too, where people didn't know how they were going to get their bills paid this month, and then just, all of a sudden, an extra $78 showed up in their mailbox or something like that, and a check came out of nowhere, and it was exactly what they needed to cover their bills. And I think that He's just an awesome God when it comes to that. But that person, they may have experienced that blessing where God came in and just met their needs, but all He's doing for them is meeting their needs, because they have not been good stewards of what they have. So first and foremost is living within your means. That is the biggest thing, is to live on less than what you make. And within that, we should be giving and we should be saving, but living on less than what we make. The tendency that people have is the moment they start making more, they want to increase their lifestyle. They want to spend every bit more that they make. I was counseling a couple one time that they were making $200,000 a year. And I actually met this couple at a TGI Fridays. And when I was single, I would go in there and I would eat at this Fridays quite often. And this couple was there every single time I went in. They were young, in their 20s. And I finally, one day, I asked them, I said, why are you guys here all the time? And they said, honestly, we don't like to be home because the bill collectors are always calling. And I knew that they had good jobs. He was a doctor at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and she also worked at the hospital. And I asked them, I said, how much money do you guys make? And they told me they made over 200,000 a year between the two of them. And I'm thinking, this is odd. They make over 200,000 a year, yet they're trying to run from bill collectors. What's going on here? Something's not right. And so, as I was getting to know them, at one point they asked me if I would help them to make an extra 30 or 40,000 a year, because then everything would be great. Life would be awesome if they could just make another 30 or 40,000 a year. And I told them, I said, no, it won't. That's not going to happen for you. I said, because if you make another 30 or 40,000 a year, you're just going to spend another 40 or 50. You already have enough. You have more than enough. You don't do the right thing with the money that you already have. And if you can't handle 200,000, you can't handle 230 or 240. And they took a little offense to that, and they were like, that's not right. How can you say that? And so he was 28 years old. She was 26. I knew it wasn't that long ago that they didn't have 200,000 a year. They were living on a lot less. So I asked them, I said, how long ago was it that you were living on, say, 40,000 or less? And they said, well, that was a few years ago. And I said, how was life then? And they said, life was awesome. It was really, really good then. We didn't have all these cares. We didn't have all these worries back then. And I told them, I said, what you need to do is go back and live the way you lived when you made 40,000 a year. And I said, when you're making 200 and you live the same way as you did when you said life was awesome, then that's when you're really going to be able to start doing things with your money. And they never were taught the financial discipline of living within their means. If their income went up, they went and spent every bit of it. And to me, it's the number one thing. People tend to spend money and then try to figure out how to make more, instead of saying, how do I make the most of what I have, what I know that I have? If I have $50,000 a year, how do I live a really good life, making sure I don't ever exceed that 50,000, because I might never make more than that. In fact, there may become a day I make less than that. But if I make more, that's awesome. But if I develop a great lifestyle on 50,000 a year and I happen to start making 100, I should still continue to live as if I'm only making 50, because that 100 is not guaranteed. And if I can do that, life is really, really good when my lifestyle is based off of 50, but I make 100. And so today, Collin, I make really, really good money. But my lifestyle, my wife and I probably spend only $6-something thousand a month, and we make a lot more than that. But that enables us to give to a lot of people. It enables us to take really nice vacations when we want to take vacations. It enables us to help people who need help. And we don't ever have to worry about how are our bills going to get paid. We worry more about how will other people's bills get paid, and taking care of others. But life is really good for us because we've learned to live on a certain amount. So the paycheck that I take today is the same paycheck that I took 10 years ago, and that's what we live off of.
So you said you live within your means right now. So you said you just give to a lot of people, and you spend $6,000 a month. Do you save any of that money? Like, do you have like a percentage wise? I will save this much. I'm going to spend this much, and then I'm going to tithe and then give this to the rest. And
We do, and it's a really good question, because it's something I've been contemplating a whole lot as of late. Is, when do I stop? When is enough enough? Because we have more than so many other people. We have money saved up, and there is no real formula. So don't ask me how much am I saving versus giving. But I've been praying a lot about that and saying, Lord, when should I stop this? When, should I keep on doing this? And the one thing that the Lord put on my heart that is what I'm going to exercise for a while in my life until he moves me in a different direction, is I should never be saving more than I'm giving. And that that is one thing that he put on my heart. I don't think that has been a problem in my life, but I do want to make sure that if I am allowing my savings to just keep on growing and I keep contributing to it, I want to, at a minimum, give at least that much. Again, I think that we probably exceed that already, but I'm not 100% sure. So every time something goes into savings, I want to make sure that there's a minimum that much that we give in addition to our tithe and everything else. So I
Okay.
don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers my question because it's just saying that giving, yeah, giving is just like giving is the number one thing really for me. Like tithing back to God, because without God, like you, this money isn't like, what are we really? And like, so the point is to give back to the people that maybe need it more, or God, which to the church or whatever, or charities and all that. I do have one question that I've asked two other people, and I'm going to ask you. So my dad told me that you didn't go to college, and I've asked Mike and JP about college because I don't know if I want to go to college or not. And I want to ask you, what are the pros and cons for you because you didn't go to college? What are the pros and cons of not going to college?
So let me first start out by saying I did go and dropped out my third semester.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't finish college. Um, College was expected of me. Um, I was a pretty smart kid. I was not one of the nerdy kids in school, but I was always somebody who had good grades, and it sort of came rather easily to me. And so everyone expected me to go to college because I was good with numbers and I liked numbers. It was suggested that I become an accountant. So I went to college with the intentions of becoming an accountant. I hated school. I hated school when I was in high school. I hated school when I was in college. And, while I'm in college, just sitting in a class was crazy. It was not something that I just couldn't get through those classes sometimes. And so there was one class I used to just get up and walk out of because I was so bored. And the teacher just look at me and get upset with me every time I did it. And then one day I just sat there and I asked myself, I said, if you follow through with this and you finish this up for the next 4 years, you're going to get your degree, you're going to become an accountant, and you're going to have to sit in a room behind a desk for the rest of your life. And it was in that moment I thought, that's not what I want to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but that wasn't it. And I knew that if I can't sit through these classes, there's no way I can sit behind a desk 8 hours a day doing this for somebody else. So I made the decision to leave then. Now, the road in front of me was hard. I had a very difficult road for the next 10 years of my life before I got into real estate investing. But I believe that those trials and the experiences that I had all contributed to my success as a real estate investor. Now, there's a lot of people who would think that I don't value college because I didn't go, and that's not the case at all. But I do not believe that college is for everyone. I think that there are certain people who absolutely should go to college. As I look at my boys right now, and I just try to, figure them out. They're still only 12, 10, and 7 years old, but Christopher is a smart kid. He's got a really good head on his shoulder, and he's going to be able to do a lot. And college would be good for Christopher if he knows exactly what it is he wants to do. If he doesn't know what he wants to do, he's wasting his time there, in my opinion. There's too many people who go to college for the sake of going to college. If someone knows what it is that they want to get out of it and they know what career they want to pursue, and Kyler would be one of those people. Kyler is brilliant. Kyler has an incredible mind. He's got an engineering mind, and the kid is always making things, developing new things, and studying things. He never stops. His mind just goes and goes and goes. Kyler, if Kyler went to college for engineering, to become a mechanical engineer or something, or learn how to invent things, he would really utilize college well, and I would be 100% in support of him in doing that. If he came to me and said he wanted a liberal arts degree in political science or something, I'd say, "What are you doing, man? Why are you wasting your time? Don't waste my money or your time." But when they really have a clear vision of what it is they want to get out of it. Both of my daughters are nurses, and they both have their nursing degrees, and that was perfect for both of them. And it fits right into who they are, their personalities, and they can get a job easily in that field, and they're very blessed as a result of having that. But for me, it just wasn't the right thing for me. And, I'm all the things that I think sometimes that I should have went to college maybe for a marketing degree. The best marketers in the world usually don't have a marketing degree. In fact, I've come to realize we've hired 2 people who have had marketing degrees, and they're terrible marketers. They just do what the textbooks told them. They don't pay attention to what's really happening in the real world and how to market and things like that. And so I would say college is largely dependent upon what somebody wants to do. And if it's not, you don't go just for the sake of going. That is my opinion.
Sounds good. And another question I've asked both of them. You're a mentor to a lot of people, and so you teach a lot of people. And I've been asking, what is the best teacher experience or mentorship? Experiences in going through life and learning things as you go, or having a mentor that's already done those things. Which one is better teacher?
Well, there's never a mentor who has experienced everything. And, I have been doing this for a long time right now. So much of what I help people with, and much of the mentoring that I do, comes from my experiences from mentoring others. And so because of all the relationships that I have had, the people who I've walked alongside of, I can take some of those experience and help somebody else today. I have had many of my own personal experiences that I teach from, counsel from, can share my experiences to help others. And many of those experiences would be life situations as well as business situations. And so there's a little bit of both. And sometimes it's just coming alongside of somebody and figuring it out together and being there with them and coming alongside. So the important thing in that relationship, I think, is that there is a genuine caring for the person. When I decide to take somebody on, I love my students. I want the best for them. My wife used to tell me that I talked about my students like they were my children, and she would tell me how I would be beaming with pride when they did well and when they did something good, and that's sort of the way that I see it. Some of them have even said I'm like a parent figure to them, but so it is great when people do have experience, but it's not always necessary. I think that caring part is the key, because that is what will, 2 people walking alongside of one another, when they genuinely are seeking truth and want solutions, they can find it, even if it's, they don't have the experience right now.
Yep. Well, thanks for doing this. It was really a lot of good information that you gave me. So the main thing I really wanted to thank you for was the money management was one of the things, and living within your means. My dad's told me that, but it's just cool to always hear it. And I think you explained it in a better way than my dad has. And I mean, not no offense to my dad, he's still, but it was yeah, it was really cool. Thank you for doing this. You have anything else you want to say, or
I I think it's really cool that you are doing this and you're getting all different perspectives, and just the simple fact that you and your dad decided you want to do this, I want to do it with my kids too. So you're already an inspiration, and when your dad said that you wanted to do this, I already think the world of you. I think the world of your whole family. I mean, you guys just have an awesome family, but your heart, what you've done in Guatemala, and just the way I see you being willing to pour out there, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do, because I think you got great days ahead of you.
thank you. Well, I hope you have a great rest of the week. Um, and that's all I got. So
All right.
see
My
you later.
pleasure. Thank you. Have a good one. Tell your dad I said bye.
I will. Bye.